Are people united? Are people united? Thank you, comrade.
It is unfortunate that Nigeria, despite being a major oil-producing country, have continued to fail to refine her own crude oil. The result of this is the near total 100% importation of refined petroleum products into Nigeria. And the consequence is the heavy hemorrhage of our national coffers, especially given our most important challenge, which has also brought about the resurface of queues in almost all the filling stations. And not only that, those products are no longer at the reach of many Nigerians. Today, as we speak, diesel is selling for more than 800 naira per liter. This is really an unfortunate situation, and therefore it has affected productivity, it has affected the purchasing power of many Nigerians, and importantly, it has brought businesses to a halt, because many businesses that run on generator, because of also the power with our national, the challenge with our national grid, many of them are actually closing businesses, and many workers are losing their jobs. There is no way this situation can be allowed to continue. And this have reinforced the position of the NLC and organized labor, that the only way out of this quagmire, and even to end the discussion of whether there is subsidy or not, is for us to refine product for domestic use. Among the commodities or the byproducts of crude oil, I think the most easiest one to refine is the diesel. But unfortunately, we have not even maximized the potentials that we have to do that. We have seen a lot of our youths trying to do the obvious by refining through illegal means. I think it's high time for us to organize them into clusters and even allow them to run modular refineries so that this challenge can be addressed. So, comrade, this will be one of the major issues that is going to be discussed by this very important organ. For now, running formats, the children of the poor have remained at home. You recall that the last decision we took is to the extent of writing to Mr. President, and we gave 21-day notice for them to convey a very high-powered meeting to be chaired either by the SGF of the Chief of Staff for those issues to be resolved once and for all. That meeting was called, but from the report we have received yesterday from all the unions in the education sector, ASU, NASU, SANU, NAT, colleges of education, polytechnics, we have found out that progress is not being made. And the timeline of 3 weeks that was given by that committee for all reports to be turned in and for government to be able to make decisions, that have not taken place. And therefore, yesterday, the Central Working Committee took note of that and lamented very profusely that we are not going in the right direction, especially in terms of quality education. Today, there have been increase in issues of social vices. And this can be traced to the fact that those children have been at home for 4 months and no progress has been made. Time lost cannot be gained, and whatever can be addressed within a shorter time Why should government allow the situation to actually prolong? What we can do today, why do we need to draw it and address it much more later? So I think there is an urgency in addressing this issue. And therefore, Central Working Committee decided that there will be a one-day national protest to call the attention of government to resolve this issue immediately. And after that, the next decision of the Central Working Committee will take place. We have also said that all our affiliates in the next 1 week will issue statements to give credence to that decision. Comrades, we have also seen a lot of reports from the federal government saying that 70,000 ghost workers have been flushed out from the federal civil service and that there have been recovery of over 220 billion. And we begin to wonder, who is actually behind this issue of ghost figures and ghost workers? Nobody has been brought to book. Is really the fight against corruption working? Because it will be surprising that this information is before the public, but nobody has been held responsible because people also collude. Could it be that it's the same people that are colluding that is also giving these informations? So we demand that those responsible must also be brought to book. And we'll communicate that officially to the head of service, demanding that those behind the issue of ghost workers and ghost figures that have been used to deny workers their legitimate rights should also be brought to book. We will also discuss the issue in Edo State, because the governor cannot, on one hand, be very proactive in supporting labor by increasing the minimum wage at the last May Day from 30,000 naira to 40,000 naira, which we commend him, to also say that he wanted to suspend the activities of education sector unions. I think it's good to inform him that he has no such power because labor and trade unions are organizations of workers. Only workers can suspend their organization. And therefore, he has no such power, and we will so advise him. On the issue of minimum wage, till date, we have 4 states that have not commenced: Taraba, Zamfara, Abia, and Cross River. And we will be exploiting the provision of the Act, the Minimum Wage Act, which said that unions can also enforce the minimum wage. We have requested those states to furnish us with the information that have been required of them, so that we can be able to assist them in this direction. Review of salary in the core civil service. Comrade, the last time salaries in the civil and public service was reviewed was in 2009, when there was an increase of 53.3%. And from what is happening in different sectors, including the judiciary, it's very clear that for the past 14 years, in those sectors, there have not been salary increase outside the minimum wage. We shouldn't confuse the minimum wage with salary review. Salary review is a different bargaining process, which in the time past was led by the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council, and therefore is long overdue. And with the challenges of in the economy, where the purchasing power of ordinary workers have been eroded, and the minimum wage cannot even take us home, it can barely even pay our transportation, we will make a formal demand on behalf of the Joint Public Service Negotiating Council for the review of wages in the entire public sector, because it's actually due. And importantly, is also to say that the judiciary remains a very important arm of government. And basically, they are charged with the responsibility of dispensing justice without fear or favor. If at this point they are complaining about their wages, it then means that something is wrong. And we call on the 2 other arms of government, the executive and the legislature, to take this issue very seriously. One issue that have defied solution in our country today is the issue of insecurity. The protection of life and property, which is the major function of every government. For the past 4 years, situation have actually gone from bad to worse in many, many states. As we speak, those that have been apprehended on their way to Kaduna, that ill-fated train attack, they have not been able to gain their freedom. And on daily basis, people are being killed. Those that are reported are those that are privileged for their issues to be reported. But we are aware that many are being kidnapped and many are not reported. So, comrades, this is one issue that also we must continue to interrogate. And we must ask our government to think out of the box and see how best these issues can be addressed. Outside the support to the military and our armed forces, and even our police, I think what is more important is also to come up with strategies that actually will be driven by information technology and also high-tech to be able to assist the military in addressing this issue. But certainly there is no country that can draw investors or even make progress if the security of life and property is not guaranteed. One major issue also that have affected the working class is the issue of hyperinflation and the increasing cost of goods and services, which, as we are aware, is also occasioned by the disruption going on around the world, occasioned also by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. This is most unfortunate, and we will join other trade union movements around the world to call for an end to that hostility and for Russia to withdraw and also return to the table to resolve issues in line with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations. This is very important, comrade, because part of the issue of energy challenge, which I said earlier, is the fact that there have been disruption in all the supply lines around the world because of that war. It ought to have been an advantage to Nigeria to be able to sell our refined product if we are refining. But basically, we are also caught in the web because we are not refining, and therefore we are importing. And if we are importing, everything that we are importing, because also our currency have continued to lose its value, and you need the dollar and forex to import those goods and services. So the prices have soured, and they are now beyond the reach of many Nigerians, especially workers that are on fixed wages. So basically, government look at this to also look at other social security safety nets that can be extended to workers, extended also to their families, but importantly, even those that are not employed. And that is why we are also demanding for a new social security cover that can actually address the challenge of the moment. Comrades, as we speak at this meeting, we are also challenged with a new wave of sack by the Kaduna state government. Most of you must have read the sacking of 2,357 primary school teachers. It's the same teachers that were employed in 2016 and 2018 when he claimed that he has done competency tests and now he has teachers that are very competent. Those teachers that were employed 4 years ago, for the past 4 years, they are still casuals. So basically, what he wanted to do is to casualize teaching and also the public service. We have since swung into action. We have met with the leadership of the Nigerian Union of Teachers at the highest level. We are exploiting different avenues to respond to these issues. But it's one issue that we are going to confront headlong. I also want to report to you that we have also been able to challenge his posture to try to work outside the rule of law, to constitute a judicial commission of inquiry, to challenge our action using workers' power to defend the sack of more than 34,000 workers last year. Basically, the court have granted all the 4 reliefs sought by the NLC and also granted a perpetual injunction to say that he lacks that power. That is the type of people we have now in the polity, that they don't respect the rule of law, they don't respect court proceedings. Even in this case of sack of the teachers, NUT went to court because NUT was not consulted, NUT was not part of the process, and that is the function of NUT. All those provisions are provided in our international covenant. The laws are very clear that you cannot do such things without working through the unions. And importantly, teaching is a profession, like all other professions. How do you then go and test the competency of a teacher when even the regulatory body, Teachers Registration Council, said these teachers are competent and they are teaching? That is abuse of process, and that is impunity. of the highest order. And therefore, we'll follow all means to try to challenge these issues and those processes. In their appointment letters, there is no provision that the competency test will be administered on them intermittently. No. In public service, all of us know the way to test my competency is when it comes to my promotion, you subject me to the process of testing my competency. And when I end my promotion, it means that I'm competent, and therefore I can reach the zenith of my career. Those are the same people that are still casuals when the law said after 6 months, a worker ought to be confirmed. So, comrades, this is the issue, and we'll continue to brief you on the steps we have taken. If it requires a national action, that will also inform you, but we want your consent, and also we want you to be aware of those challenges, and we are going to confront, and by the grace of God, we are going to win. As we run down to the 2023 general election, one important issue that all of us will need to be aware of and also guard jealously is the fact that we demand that INEC conducts a free, fair, and credible election. Because I think now there is no excuse, because the new Electoral Act have made things a bit simpler. One, that at a polling booth, there will be electronic accreditation. And we demand that that is sacrosanct to guard for free and fair election. And we demand that INEC must work assiduously to ensure that the credibility of our electoral process is ensured, and that the vote will count, and it will be one man, one vote, one woman, one vote. That NLC will try to engage the process, and we are trying to have a process where we can interface with the INEC to be able to also hear our views. And where actions are required, we'll try to do that also to strengthen them, so that the electoral process will not continue to be undermined. Report of Labour Party and the conclusion of reconciliation. Many of you must have seen over the media in the last couple of days that progress is being made by the Labour Party. We have fully reconciled and also take ownership of the party. And we have candidates in all the elective positions, starting from the office of the president. And all of you must have seen 2 days ago when we were actually celebrating one of our icons, the 10-year anniversary of the demise of late Pascal Bafio in this hall. The presidential candidate came, and we were able to interface with him. And therefore, what will be the manifesto of the party will be the charter of the man of organized labor and NLC. And therefore, we will work assiduously through a retreat process to come with that document. Opportunity will be given to all the unions and affiliates to be able to make input, and basically that will then form the fulcrum of the objective and also the course of action of the party. The terms of settlement is clearly in the document that have been circulated to you, and you will do well actually to go through some of those documents. And in the coming days, and in the discussion of NEC, we're also going to discuss how we can be able to put structures in place and also take care of every aspect of logistics that has to do with driving the process of a credible political party and a credible process of also confronting the bourgeoisies out there to make sure that workers can also hold political power, as done in many countries. As we speak, yesterday I was sharing with the members of the Central Working Committee. The Labour Power of Australia is now back in power. And the last 1 month they won power, and we are now back in power. Same in New Zealand, and Colombia, the same thing. And now Brazil is working assiduously. President Lula, by the special grace of God, will also come back through the Workers' Party of Brazil. And we know also that our Labour Party in the UK, they are also making effort to reorganize and come back to power. And I've also shared with them that in America, the current president of America was brought in by the full support of our counterpart, American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Unions. And 2 weeks ago, myself and the General Secretary attended their delegate conference, where the First Lady, Liz Schuler, was elected as the president of American Federation of Labor for the first time in history. And also our friend, Fred, a black American, was elected as Treasurer Secretary, because in their own, all the 5 offices are elected. You have the next in command after the president is Treasurer Secretary, is one office, and then the other offices. So all of them were elected, and is the first black person to also be elected as Treasurer Secretary, because the lady that became the president was the former Treasurer Secretary, because the former president died, our friend Richard Trumka. So basically, the President of America was there, the most powerful president in the world, and he openly stated, and I think I've shared the clip on our various social media platforms. He said he's not ashamed to be called the president of American workers, and that is American workers and the middle class that built America. And therefore, there is any restraint for workers in America to join unions of their choice. And we are aware that the wave of unionism in America now is at its highest peak. Workers in Apple, workers in Amazon, workers on the platform are joining the unions. So, comrades, it can be done with our collective action, with our collective will. It's possible also that we can start, and we can start from somewhere. And that is most important, and I think that is what is going to guide our engagement. The commencement of all these processes will actually start immediately after this very important NEC meeting. And I'm sure that all our NEC members will take full responsibility to see to it that we're able to make progress. On the issue of the autonomy of the local government, of the judiciary and the legislature, you are aware that the bills have been sent to the State Houses Assembly for enactment. I'm happy to announce that only 2 states out of the 32 states, 36 states have responded. Abia and Kogi actually voted in support of the full autonomy of local government, legislature, and the judiciary. And I want to use this opportunity on behalf of NEC to commend their state houses of assembly and urge other states to follow suit, and that our action will also be activated in every state now to follow up the State House of Assembly to remind them that these documents have been there for more than 1 month. And basically, we demand for action, and we demand for positive action, because that is the only way we can make the 3 tiers of government to work effectively. Local government, the first tier of government, the states, and then the federal. They need to be independent entity. We need to have resources at the local government level to drive development. We need to have resources to address the issue of insecurity at the local government level. Currently, this is not happening. The money is in the pocket of few, in the pocket of cronies. There is no credible election at the local government level, and that is where politics should start. So that is our demand, and that is the demand of Nigerian workers, that this time around, this is the time to get it right. And basically, because it's an election period, it's our major agenda. Even on the manifesto of the Labour Party, it's our major agenda that will have to see to it that local governments have their full autonomy. So, comrades, with that, I want to warmly welcome you once again to this meeting of the National Executive Council. Other reports from different sectors, including the organized private sector, who has complained very profusely that they are closing down production lines because power is not stable. Electricity has become something that is very challenging. In fact, many of us are paying for darkness, and therefore there is no power. And therefore, there is no way you can run businesses on generators. And even running them on generator now have become more and more expensive, because diesel is beyond the reach of the small and medium-scale enterprises. And therefore, we are losing a lot of workers. We are going to commence some research to even come up with the quantum of workers that have been laid off. So government has to wake up from its slumber to address this important challenge of making power available and making sure also that petroleum products are not only available, but affordable, because now they are not affordable. And therefore, we cannot continue to fold our arms without also looking at how to address these challenges. So, comrades, once again, I thank you immensely, and therefore, solidarity forever, and forward ever, backward never.